Good morning, everyone. My name is Arnau, and today I will be shedding a light on Flutter. So, before I start, how many of you know about Flutter? Okay, cool. How many of you have actually tried Flutter? I count just like five. So, most of you are probably wondering, what is Flutter? Well, Flutter is a UI framework for building apps for mobile, desktop, and the web. It was created by Google and first release was in 2017. It's been adopted at a rapid rate in previous years, like recent years. So with mega corporations like Google themselves, PM, and all of those on screen. And the coolest use of Flutter that I I seen was the Ubuntu desktop installer. It was built entirely with Flutter. And recently, LG announced that they will be preferring Flutter as the framework of choice to build their TV, WebOS applications or whatever. The main selling point of Flutter is that you're able to build apps for all these platforms from a single code base. You might be wondering how they pull that off. So under the hood, Flutter is implemented using the Dart programming language. And this is also the programming language you will use to build your Flutter app. So before I tell you about that, let me share a story. So just before, just after we got here, Lucky asked me to build him a Flutter app because I wouldn't shut up about it. And this is the app that I built. And this was roughly how he reacted. And when it came time to show him that code, it went a little something like this. He wasn't impressed. He said it was terrible, but I disagree. So let me tell you about that. That is a type-safe, object-oriented, compiled programming language. It was also developed by Google, and its first release was in 2011. Um, that is unique in the way that it has the ability to compile to multiple targets. So self-contained executables for x86, 64 for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and ARM machine code for mobile, so your Android and iOS, and JavaScript for the web. And as of Flutter 3.22, you can now compile directly to WebAssembly. That syntax resembles that of Java, but with obvious advantages like it's boilerplate free and it doesn't force you into object-oriented programming. So that being a more modern programming language, it has a couple of advantages over Java. So by default, it has null safety and it has optional typing. So by default, it's strongly typed, but then you can opt out of that and use dynamic types like JavaScript and Python. So we have already established that it is a compiled programming language, but in addition to the ahead of time compilation, it also has a just-in-time compiler, which allows you to swap code without having to recompile the app. So you can change the app while it's running. So in development, this is a game changer because you don't have to wait to recompile the app. I don't know if you have experienced this, but while I was building apps on Android using Java, most often I had to recompile the whole app just to see a small change. So now let's talk a little bit about the Flutter architecture. So it's made of three simple layers. So you have the embedder, which is the platform specific code to embed your Flutter app with the host OS. So that would be the web, Windows, or whatever operating system. And then just above that, you have the Flutter engine. It's written in C++ and it uses a high performance graphics 2D graphic engine called Skia. It was also built by Google and it was first released in 2006, I think. And this layer is also responsible for running your Dart code. And then just above that, you have the the Flutter framework. So it's also implemented in that, and then you'll write your code in that. If we take a look back at the engine, it uses its custom graphics rendering engine. So it has control over all the pixels in your screen. And they're kind enough to give this control to the developers. So as a developer, you can write your own shaders. I must say it only lets you write fragment shaders because this is a 2D engine. So for those of you who seem confused by shaders, shaders are just tiny programs that runs in your GPU and they're responsible for rendering graphics. Let me show you an example of a shader that I wrote. So what you see here is a super realistic 3D sphere, but it's not really 3D. I was just able to pull this off because the sphere is quite a simple object where if you know the center and the radius, you can kind of infer all the points on the surface, and from there you can get your normals. So because it's in the Flutter framework, I can use the UI to change the color of the sphere, to turn down the strength of the lighting, and all those things. Now let me show you the shader that I used to pull this off. Okay, I accidentally closed the window, but then it's just you write the shaders in OpenGL shader language, and I just used simple phone shading to execute this. Now this is cool and all, but now let me walk you through how you build your first Flutter app, right? So in Flutter, everything is a widget, including the app itself. So then the entry point of your Flutter application is this main function, right? And then you run the app called my app. Now you can see a red squiggle because it doesn't exist yet. So let's create that. So we have only two types of widgets. So we have stateless and stateful. Stateless don't have internal state, and the stateful do have internal state. So I'm gonna use a stateful widget, and then I'm gonna call it my app because that's what I named my app over here. And then this class has a build method which just returns a widget. So I'm gonna use the material app widget for this, right? And then it has a property called home, and then I'm gonna use a widget called scaffold. So it's just a kind of a page template, if you wanna put it that way. And if I save, you can see the hold reload in action. And now you quickly get your scaffold. So this scaffold has an app bar property and a widget conveniently named app bar. So let me just give it a background color so that you can see it. So I'm just gonna set it to red. And there you go, you can see your app. And then let me just read but and then now you get the body of your app. So that's the entire remaining part. So the body also takes a widget as the named argument. So I'm gonna use a center which just puts its children at the center of the parent. So as a child, I'm gonna use the text widget and I'm gonna say hello world. And congratulations, you have your first hello world app. So let me just change the style so that you can see it clearly. Okay, now I made it a little bit bolder. Now let me take you through how you manage the state as this being a stateful widget. So I'm just gonna create a state variable called count, and then it's gonna be an integer. Then I'm gonna say it's equals 0, right? And now because Flutter, that has a unified type system, everything in that is an object. So it enables you to perform string interpolation on anything like this count variable. If I save, it immediately reflects the count variable. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm just gonna add a little foreign action button here. So the scaffold also has a a slot for a floating action button. So I'm just going to add one, and it has a widget which is also conveniently called floating action button. So it has the on press property. So this is just a callback. So I'm just going to say, call it add, right? And then it takes a child. So what you want to display inside the floating action button. And then I'm going to use an icon. So because Flutter is a product of Google, you have all the material icons, material widgets already built in. So I'm gonna use the add icon, but now we still have a red squiggly line to define the add function. So I'm just gonna define the method now. And now that's gone. And I want, when I click this button, I want to add to that count. So we just do add plus plus, not add count. But it's not as simple as that. The stateful widget, right, gives you a method called set state. So what it does, it just calls the build method. So it just re-renders the widget and all the other widgets down the widget tree. So if we just take this and put it inside there and save, if I click add, you can see the count changing now. And now just to demonstrate the stateful hot reload, you know the state of the count is 7 now, right? And then if I just decide to change the color of the app to something like green, the app UI changes without affecting the state of the application. So that's how you write your first Flutter app. And now let me show you some of my projects that I built with Flutter. So first we have the car wash app. It was meant for people to book car washes and have people come over to their house and wash their car or take their car there. And then a students app for just sharing studying material and act as a forum so that students can discuss among themselves and to their lecture. And this habit tracker app that was meant to help you develop, maintain, and track your habits. So in conclusion, Flutter is a great tool. It helps the developer to ship their apps fast without having to worry which platforms should I build for first. You just build once and you can deploy everywhere. However, it is not perfect, especially Flutter Web. It still kind of sucks. Like the performance is not really in par with other JavaScript frameworks, despite it's now compiling to WebAssembly. So after tomorrow's level up review, I want every one of you to head over to flutter.dev and build your first Flutter app. This concludes my talk.